Zen master Hokuin said that enlightenment is nothing but peace. It may sound deceptively simple, but when we look around ourselves, we see that there is never a lack of disturbance. There are disturbances in our body, our relationships, our work, and in the world at large. This begs the question, how do we find peace in this world? And what does it mean to be peaceful anyway? Is it to have everything just so, exactly as you would like it to be? In fact, the word chaos comes from Greek mythology. It is the name of a monster who personified the void of infinite potentiality that existed before the creation of the world. In other words, the universe was born from chaos. Chaos is thus not something to be avoided, nor is it something to be created. Chaos is an inevitable part of life. Life itself cannot exist without chaos. Just as darkness cannot exist without light, hot cannot exist without cold, or full cannot exist without empty. We must learn to live with chaos instead of trying to avoid it. Now, many of us think that to find peace, we need to find the right conditions, a particular way in which things are, a certain kind of life. But actually, what we need to find is not something external. We need to find something internal, a certain kind of awareness. Many believe that their awareness is exactly the same as their thoughts, and they follow wherever their thoughts wander. But if you notice, your thoughts are not always very peaceful, are they? They jump from one subject to another, making plans for the future, worrying about the past, fantasizing about all kinds of things, including the future and the past. Your thoughts are also constantly distracted by everything that is going on around you. All these mental distractions create restlessness in your awareness. Your awareness becomes identified with the thoughts, and this creates a sense of agitation. True peace is not found by changing the external circumstances, but by changing the way we relate to those circumstances. To understand this better, let's hear a Zen story. Once upon a time, long ago, in a faraway land, there was a beautiful monastery nestled at the foot of a mountain. It was a place of serenity and tranquility, where monks lived simple lives dedicated to meditation and harmony with nature. Among them was a young and earnest monk named Koji, whose heart was pure and whose commitment to his spiritual path was unwavering. One evening, as the sun began its descent, casting long shadows across the monastery grounds, the sky grew dark and the wind picked up, signaling the approach of a storm. Koji felt a sense of foreboding mixed with anxiety. Storms were rare in this peaceful valley, and their ferocity was unsettling. As the night wore on, the wind howled, the trees swayed violently, and torrents of rain lashed against the ancient walls of the monastery. Thunder roared like the angry bellow of some mythical beast, each clap reverberating through Koji's very being. Lightning split the sky, momentarily illuminating the worried faces of the other monks as they huddled together in the common hall. Fearful thoughts raced through Koji's mind. Will the monastery withstand the fury of the wind and the rain? He wondered, his gaze darting nervously from window to window. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed through the night, followed by the sound of shattering glass. One of the windows had succumbed to the pressure and had broken. Disheartened and troubled by the destructive power of the storm, Koji realized that his own inner peace had been shaken. He longed to find solace in meditation, but the rhythmic drumming of the rain, the persistent howling of the wind, and the incessant flashes of lightning made it nearly impossible to focus his mind. His efforts to calm his racing thoughts were like a candle flame buffeted by a strong wind, threatening to be extinguished. Frustrated and desperate for calm, he knew he needed guidance. With a heavy heart, he approached his master, Zen Master Yakucho, who was known for his wisdom and tranquility. He found the master seated serenely in a quiet corner of the hall, seemingly untouched by the turmoil raging outside. Koji poured out his troubled thoughts to the master, explaining how the storm had invaded not just their physical space, but also the sanctuary of his mind. He confessed his inability to find peace amidst the chaos. The master listened patiently, his gaze fixed on the dancing flames of a nearby candle. When Koji finished his tale, the master remained silent for a moment, lost in thought. Finally, he spoke in his calm, resonant voice. The river will always have storms, and so will life. Trying to control the storm is futile. Your true peace is not in the absence of the storm, but in the strength of your anchor. Koji looked at his master, puzzled by these enigmatic words. The master rose from his seat and, beckoning Koji to follow him, led him outside into the raging storm. They stood together for a while, letting the wind whip around them and the rain drench their robes. Then the master turned to Koji and pointed to a small boat that was moored to a post in the middle of a nearby river, which had overflowed its banks and was now churning with the force of the storm. Despite the wild movements of the water, the boat remained anchored and upright. "Do you see that boat, Koji?" the master asked. "Yes, master," replied Koji, his eyes still wide with worry and confusion. "What does it have to do with my troubled mind?" The master explained. "The river is like life, always flowing and ever changing. It has its calm moments and its times of great turbulence. Just as the river is beyond our control, the events of our lives are also beyond our grasp. We cannot stop the storms that come our way, nor should we try to. Just as the river needs the rains and the tides to nourish and sustain it, our lives need the challenges and changes to grow and evolve. The boat, my young friend, is your true self, your essence. It is anchored to the shore of your being. No matter how fierce the winds of change blow, no matter how heavy the rains pour, if your anchor is strong, you will remain steadfast and true to yourself." Still confused, Koji looked back at the raging elements and then at the solitary boat. "But master," he asked, "the boat seems so small and vulnerable amidst such a powerful storm. How can it possibly withstand all that force?" The master smiled knowingly. "The strength of the boat lies not in its size or material, but in the strength of the rope that anchors it. That rope is your breath, Koji. As long as your breath is steady and strong, you are anchored to the shore of your true self. When your breath is calm, you are calm. When your breath is turbulent, you are troubled. The breath is the bridge between the storms of life and the harbor of your soul." With these words, the master guided Koji back to his meditation. Instead of blocking out the storm, the master taught him to observe it, to acknowledge it without judgment. He encouraged Koji to return to his breath, to find the anchor within him. Koji followed his master's guidance and went back to his meditation. At first, the storm raged on within him, too. He could feel the wind of worry and the rain of fear threatening to overwhelm him. But he held on to his breath, to the steady rhythm of inhale and exhale. As he focused on his breath, the noise of the storm gradually faded into the background. It was still there, but it no longer had the power to disturb his inner peace. He realized that the chaos was just noise, a mere disturbance in the vast expanse of his being. His true self, the observer, was still and peaceful. From that day forward, Koji carried the lessons of the storm within him. Whenever life's storms threatened to engulf him, he remembered the strength of his anchor. He would focus on his breath, finding solace in its steadiness and grounding himself in the present moment. Over time, the storms became less daunting, the winds of change less overwhelming, and he learned to navigate the rapids of life with grace and equanimity. As the night wore on, the storm gradually subsided. The wind's angry howls softened into a gentle breeze, the torrential rain transformed into a soothing drizzle, and the furious torrent of the river calmed into a peaceful flow. With the first rays of dawn, a sense of tranquility returned to the monastery. Koji, filled with gratitude for his master's teachings, stepped out of his hut and took a deep breath of the fresh, rain-washed air. The sky was clear, the clouds dispersed, and the sun shone brightly, painting the world in a myriad of colors. The trees, though drenched, stood tall and proud, their roots firmly anchored in the earth. As the other monks gathered for their morning meditation, Koji shared his experiences of the night and the profound wisdom he had gained from his master and the stoic boat. His fellow monks, too, had weathered the storm in their own ways, and they found solace and strength in Koji's story. From that day forward, they all practiced the art of letting go, anchoring themselves to their breath, no matter what storms life might throw their way. And so the monks of the monastery continued their lives of peace and serenity, forever changed by the wisdom of the storm. Life will always have its storms, but we don't have to let those storms take away our peace. When we truly understand this, we begin to discover the depth of what it means to be peaceful. The key is to realize that fighting against chaos only makes it stronger. Peace is found through acceptance and non-resistance. It is found by letting go of the need to control everything and by surrendering to the natural flow of life.